That is Conor Ryan. Conor, how you doing?
Evan, I'm doing well. How you doing?
Doing great. It is so freaking hot outside. And I learned that, not that I learned this, but I went over to Warrior Ice Arena to film some videos outside for Bruins Rinkside, shameless plug. And I was shooting them outside and I was sweating before I even started recording. It was freaking so hot outside, like 99. Just insane, just complete insanity.
At least you didn't, you weren't on that orange line train that spontaneously combusted, though. So it could be worse. You could have been jumping into the Mystic River, Evan. You would have showed up. It would have been bad if you showed up to Warrior just like soaking wet, especially with Mystic River water. That's you don't want to run into that. So
didn't she actually, the woman who jumped in, just got out and walked away? Like she was like, I'm good.
Respect. She's like, you know what? Fuck this. I have to go to assembly and I can't miss my shift, so I'm just gonna show up.
I respect the hell out of it.
I would much rather. It'd be so much better at that point. You're so mad of just stewing inside to just do that and just walk away, than as opposed to I'll get you on a boat or anything like that. Oh, you need help? No, leave me alone. I had a cannonball into the Mystic at 7 a.m. this morning. I'm all set.
I'm swimming in this. I just imagine like news trucks being there and seeing her like come out of the water and being like, "Ma'am, can we interview you?" And she's just like, "No, like don't even try to talk."
Yeah, exactly.
It's not going to work. So hell of a morning for those commuters. I mean, my goodness. You had a tweet of a t-shirt, save the water, I think it was, or
safer in the water. I think that's
safer in the water.
I think someone interviewed that poor woman who jumped into the river, and they pretty much asked her why she ended up doing this, which, I mean, the train was on fire. So she's like, I think I was safer in the water, which, again, I want the royalties for that t-shirt, because I know like some dude on Canal Street's going to be selling that along with like LeBron as a douche, one of those other shirts they always have. That one's going to add to the rotation now. So I would like some royalties on that t-shirt.
I think, speaking of like royalties on t-shirts, I believe, if memory serves, Petrov McGuire actually made a t-shirt with Brady drunk coming out of that Super Bowl parade.
Oh yeah.
I think he put it on Twitter, and then within like an hour, someone had already put it on Redbubble and sold like a zillion t-shirts, and Petrov was just like, what the hell? So yeah, you got to get on that.
I have to add a little copyright thing to it. Then I'll be right back. Actually,
yeah, the Redbubble hounds are all over this. Anyways, speaking of things that are not going as planned, not that things here are not going as planned, but it's taking a little bit longer than we all kind of thought. Patrice Bergeron and David Krejci have yet to sign. It is July 21st when we're recording this. And nothing has taken place on either of their fronts, at least officially, right? Like we've had the reports and all those things, but nothing official has come out yet. What do you think is the holdup here? Are they on an orange line train? Are David Krejci and Patrice Bergeron on an orange line train, and they're just waiting over the Mystic River to get to Warrior?
Hopefully that's not the case, Evan. When it comes down to it, I think there's two possible logical explanations as to why they haven't announced anything yet. First one, I think, is the Bruins want to clear cap space before both those guys put pen to paper, which would make sense. And the other is that I think they're just kind of navigating through the language of these contracts, which, I mean, Don Sweeney more or less alluded to it during his last press conference. If and when, maybe when in parentheses there, but if you get to that point where Bergeron and Krejci are signing, it's safe to assume it's going to be 1-year deals, probably very low base salary, and a whole lot of performance bonuses tacked onto it. And that's going to take time in terms of getting that, the proper language down for that, what's going to be the case. I don't think they're going to be necessarily haggling over the performance bonuses. I think when the Bruins signed Jerome McGinley back in 2013-14, I think his base salary was like $1.6 million. Easy to fit in there, but his performance bonuses were like a joke. I think he got $4.2 million in bonuses, and the first 3.7 kicked in off of playing in 10 games. Like, pretty easy to do. Like, I don't think they're going to be, holding, Bergeron and Krejci hostage in terms of these bonuses. Like, oh, you have to hit 70 points to get your full bonus. I mean, both players have all the leverage here, because if they both decide that it's not worth their time to kind of haggle over these things, and they go somewhere else or just outright retire, the Bruins are up the creek. They're up the Mystic River.
It's not like they need the money. The Mystic River. It's not like they need the money. These guys do not need the money at all.
Yeah.
So yeah, I agree with you on that.
Yeah, so I think it's either coming down to working on, the language involving those bonuses, which is tricky in and of itself. Because not only do you have to, if you're the Bruins, of course you want Bergeron and Krejci back. Of course you want to try to sign them to deals that don't involve a lot of high base salary, so you can fit them in with whatever kind of cap constraints you're dealing with. But you also have to look further down the line. And again, people probably don't want to talk about 2023, 24 because you don't really know who's going to be in place and whatnot. But you also don't want to necessarily put $6-7 million in bonuses into next year that they carry over into it, because as we saw with the Bruins in 2014-15, when Gillen was playing for the Avalanche and you had about $4.3 million in dead cap with his bonuses sitting there, what happened? The Bruins missed the playoffs. They traded a very good asset in Johnny Boychuk for pennies on the dollar, and Petraglia was fired very soon afterwards. So it's one of those things where, of course, bonuses will have to come into play. But if you're the Bruins, I also don't think you want to just give them, let's say, each $1 million and then $6 million or something in bonuses that carry over. Because look into next year, if you don't have Bergeron and Krejci, whether they're retired or Krejci goes back to the Czech, you have no set plan down the middle after that. You have to sign Pastrnak. You have to sign Swayman. You don't want that much dead cap sitting there. So it's a tough juggling act for the Bruins to kind of deal with, in terms of, one, finding the right language, the right deal, the right dollars and cents for those bonuses, and two, what we talked about at the start of trying to clear up some cap space. Because even if you get them signed to one year, $1 million base salary, still got Zacha to deal with and that ruling. So you're still going to have to move up money in some area, whether it's a buyout, moving a guy like Riley, what have you, to make this all kind of come together. So there's a lot of stuff they have on the docket before they get to those guys signing those deals.
And you hit on this, right? You have to move out guys if you want to clear cap space. And you've said this, I think I've said this in past episodes. If you are already over the cap and you've got to move guys, other teams have all the leverage. They know you're screwed. If you're trying to trade Mike Riley, they know, like, hey, we know why you're doing this. This is not like, hey, we want some extra draft picks. It's no, we got to get him off the books. So in this situation, I feel like they almost kind of want to wait. I am curious if they are right now trying to deal a Mike Riley or, maybe a Craig Smith or someone along those lines, where they're just trying to get those off the books, get under the cap, get well under the cap, because they are still $2.3 million under the cap right now. Or it's like 2.6, somewhere around there. So they're under it, but they could get even more under it. And suddenly, teams they're not holding you over a barrel. Because I do think that is a deterrent from dealing those guys, because you're gonna get considerably less. Right. They know you're screwed. Like I think that's what's difficult.
And it's one of those things where, of course, there's other options they can take. You can go into the offseason, you can spend 10% over the upper limit. So around, 90 million if you want to, but sooner or later, you gotta hit under that ceiling at some point. Like, those are all short-term measures. Even doing LTIR, of course, the Bruins can go over it by quite a bit when you've got Marchand and McAvoy and Grzelcyk on the shelf. Like, I think their combined salary equals out to almost 16-17 million. Of course, you could, you can use that as a tool and spend like crazy. Hell, you could assign like Nita Ryder and Kadri and go over that limit. But it's not like a Kucherov situation where you got a guy missing the entire year. You're getting it to November, and sooner or later, guys like McAvoy and Marchand and Grzelcyk are going to come back, and you're going to need them back. So you can't push that further down the line. So even if there are options for them to maybe sign Krejci and Bergeron now and kick that problem down the line a little bit, sooner or later the bill's going to come due, and the Bruins have to get under that $82.5 million threshold. So I think the onus is on them now to be creative and make those moves now to clear up cap space before you get stuck in again. I think the last thing you want for the Bruins is all of a sudden getting into late September and you're looking at cutting down the roster, evaluating talent. Oh, and also getting under the cap, right? Like, where you're trying to move guys when, as you said, they're going to have no leverage at all if they're trying to move off a guy like Riley or what have you.
Like NHL 22 be a GM mode with the salary cap completely turned off, getting the Ryder and Nazem Kadri too. It's funny, we mentioned the orange line being on fire, and that's unfortunate. It's fun to joke about, but there's something else that's orange and on fire in the NHL right now, and that is your Calgary Flames. And I do not mean that it's because they are the actual Flames. I mean, they are burning to the ground, Evan. They are burning as we speak. I actually just I feel like such a loser. As you were talking, doing the read, I wrote down tweet orange line dash flames. So I'm making a mental note. Maybe you can beat me to it as I'm diatribing here. Anyways, for those who do not know, the Flames are, yes, there we go. The tweets are being made as we speak. The Flames are on fire, though. The Flames lost Johnny Gaudreau in free agency. And then, of course, the next shoe to drop was Matthew Tkachuk being like, I ain't re-signing. I'm not coming back. You can have fun trading me. So I think every market, NHL market in this country is right now asking, is said team in this market viable for Matthew Tkachuk? And obviously we have to ask, are the Bruins viable contenders for Matthew Tkachuk? First glance and second and third glance, probably not, considering that's like the one thing that they actually have a fair amount of is top six wingers. I will admit Tkachuk would be terrific from a style perspective. Like he would be a Bruin, like that would be a true Bruin. But you look at what they have now with Pastrnak, Hall, Marchand, DeBrusk, and Lysell, and it's like, I don't know if that's really worth it. What do you think?
Yeah, I think it's one of those things where in practice, and when you look at his fit and his style of play, of course, it would be fantastic if the Bruins added a guy like Tkachuk in terms of his physicality, goal scoring, the fact that the Bruins so desperately need a guy that can kind of score in those dirty areas of the ice. And it feels like every time you watch Tkachuk, he's either tipping a shot, he's got a rebound, he's, barreling guys down low and getting those grade A looks. Like he would fit perfectly in the system. But I think you just had to be pragmatic about it, right? Like in terms of, and it's not to say the Bruins don't have the means to potentially acquire him. Like if you want to go wild and trade Lysell and Lohrei and include, some contracts and maybe balance out the money a little bit, you can, whether it's, I don't know, DeBrusk, Kahlo, a few other guys like that on top of your grade A prospects and a few first round picks. Like you can try to finagle a trade in terms of, pooling in all your assets. That being said, you're putting all your chips on the table at the same time. But I think you look at the amount of hoops the Bruins would have to jump through in order to get a guy like Tkachuk, who, again, a fantastic player, would help this team immensely. But I also think you're looking at a situation where you're, again, adding to the wing, but you're kind of like the Golden Knights before they got Eichel, where it's, so much talent on the wing, but it's not going to mean all that much if in a year or two it's, Pavel Zacha and Coyle are your top six centers, right? And they're driving that play. Again, who knows? Maybe if you have that much talent with Pastrnak and Tkachuk and Hall and all these guys, maybe they'll still be very productive players. But again, I think sooner or later you have to focus your efforts, whether it be drafting or especially, let's say, in a few years down the road where they should have some more money freed up, whether it's the growing cap limit or more contracts coming off the books. Bruins have to throw some money at a legit center at some point. Now, who knows who's it going to be, who's going to be available at that time, but that's going to be a situation where I think the Bruins have to address that sooner rather than later, stating the obvious. So I think it's one where Tkachuk, if you look at the scenario where he's here, it's like NHL 22 adding him. Like it'd be great in practice. It'd be fantastic watching him night in, night out. But in terms of what this team desperately needs in terms of talent down the middle, you can only go so far by loading up on all your wings. So, I'd give them a very, very slim shot, especially when you just look at the amount of other teams that have a greater need for more talent on the wing, more scoring on the wing, more cap space available, probably better assets. I think the Bruins are going to be on the outside looking in at any Tkachuk sweepstakes here.
I was going to say a lot of the teams mentioned, like St. Louis, the Rangers. I think the Devils have been mentioned. There's a ton of the Devils are always mentioned, but there's so many other teams, you said, with other assets that are just better fits. And as you said, like a guy like Lysell, you don't want to trade. I don't think you want. Again, it depends on the winger, I guess, but you don't want to trade Fabian Lysell for another top six winger. I feel like if you were to trade Lysell, it would be for a center that you believe in, if you were doing like a Pierre-Luc Dubois or someone like that who was going to be a top six center for you for the next 10 years, you would deal Lysell for that, not for another top six winger, especially when you have a ton of other wingers. It's funny though. I will give, this is where the fun really like kicks into gear. Scenarios like this do make for amazing trade proposals on Twitter. There was one that went around. I love this one. there was one that someone posted, like reposted, and it was like Bruins receive Matthew Tkachuk and Milan Lucic. Calgary gets Jake DeBrusk, Matt Grzelcyk, Craig Smith, Jack Studnicka, Trent Frederick, Nick Foligno, a 2024 first and a 2023 third. And I said, that is
an orange line cable car.
Yeah, orange line cable car. That is a perfect trade. That is, nothing beats that. The beauty of that trade would be like Calgary would just have all these players, and they're like, well, what do we do with all these guys? Like DeBrusk and Grzelcyk and Smith and Studnicka and Frederick and Foligno, like where are they going in the lineup? And I also love the inclusion of Lucic in this deal. Of course, Lucic is coming back. So
you need that little nostalgia with any wild Bruins trade request. You need to have someone added in there to throw it back a little bit. So that's honestly a perfect Bruins Twitter proposal. Like that one checks all the boxes in terms of wild Bruins fan Twitter proposal.
Trade a ton of trash for another treasure. Like that is pretty much what that is. I will give, it's funny. We make fun of trade proposals. I do like seeing them though. It never fails to amaze me in the trade proposals. Like that's the one thing, like, we can sit here and make fun of them, but like, don't ever stop posting them. I mean, we'll post them at some point, so just absolutely incredible stuff. But no, I don't think that the Bruins are viable contenders for Matthew Tkachuk, as much as it sucks to say that, because Tkachuk would be a Bruin like that. And it's funny because, Cam Neely really would try to move mountains for Matthew Tkachuk if he could. So anyways, moving on to real Bruins news, tangible Bruins news. Bruins have hired a assistant coach to replace Kevin Dean on defense, John Gruden, from the Monday Night Booth and the Las Vegas Raiders. And where's John Gruden now? Like the football John Gruden. What is he doing? Like, what's this? Oh, didn't he get it canceled?
Yeah, I think so. I was going to say, he's definitely not with the Raiders anymore, right?
Yeah, never mind. I'm still living in the past. He got canceled, right? That was his thing?
I want to say he did. But it's also a football coach. Who knows if he's like landed somewhere else? He is not. Nope, he's he's out. He's out.
He's out. I forgot. I forgot about the thing that got him booted from Vegas. I completely spaced that. But the Bruins have their own John Gruden, the better John Gruden. A much better John Gruden. Was an assistant coach with the Islanders for the last 4 years. Now he comes in, has a lot of experience with the national development team. And I believe it was the USHL or the OHL? OHL. So defensive guy. He talked to us on Thursday saying that they haven't really decided between man and zone coverage for the D zone. Few tweaks. Is there anything that stands out to you about Gruden that could change?
Yeah, I think the one thing you kind of look at his profile as, obviously didn't have a lengthy time of the NHL as a player. Again, drafted by the Bruins, which feels like another checkbox there, but that's not to say that it was
another local guy.
From Minnesota. So I will also preface that. But I think you look at Gruden and kind of his track record as a offensive defenseman. It seems like he's had an active role in really working on, I think, one of the mandates for the Bruins under Montgomery is getting more offense out of this blue line, whether it's just encouraging more shots, finding shooting lanes. He mentioned a lot of more lateral movement along the blue line. So I think those are things that you can kind of look forward to in terms of the tweaks they're going to make, especially in the offensive side of things. And I think you kind of look at Gruden and his track record. Everywhere he's gone, it seems he's done a very good job at getting guys to buy in, whether that's just his systems, communication style, which seems to be a running theme in terms of the tweaks the Bruins have made with their coaching staff. But one story that kind of stood out to me was Gruden's first job in the OHL was coaching the Flint Firebirds. And a month into his time there, he got fired by the owner. And according to reports, it was because he was not giving the owner's son, who was on the roster, enough playing time. So he got fired a month into his job and was rehired less than 24 hours later because his entire team, including the son of the owner, protested and said they were not going to play unless he was back. So a guy that, has had that track record for getting players to buy in. Same thing with the Islanders. Again, when you're in a team coached by Barry Trotz, you're known for, having the identity of a stingy, grinded out team. But as a guy who helped run their defense, he played a very practical and hands-on role in terms of getting that defense to be a team that was tough to play against. I think they were in the top 10 in fewest goals against per game in all 4 years he was with the Islanders. So it seems like a guy that wherever he's gone, he's done a very good job at getting guys to communicate, get his message across, get guys to buy in. And so for this team, if his main objective is getting more offensive capabilities out of this decor, seems like a pretty good guy to take on that task, especially if it's something that allows guys like McAvoy or Grzelcyk, what have you, to hit another gear in terms of their offensive production. I don't think you're going to see Brendan Carlo all of a sudden be a 15 goal scorer or what have you. But if he's able to get more production or just more adopting more of a mindset, right, of finding those shooting lanes, of not being afraid to take a shot that maybe in the past you'd be, chastised for being a low danger shot. If it's all about, finding those lanes and capitalizing on them, seems like a good guy for kind of the objectives that the Bruins are mapping out for this roster.
And that was something the Bruins wanted the past couple of years.
Yeah.
I remember even Cassidy mentioning this after the Hurricane series in 2020 in the bubble, saying like, we need to get more shots through from the point. And over the past couple of years, it never really took place. And again, Hampus Lindholm helps with that. It does not help that Charlie McAvoy is going to be out for the first month and a half, 2 months of the season. Grzelcyk could be out for a month. So like that definitely hurts. But I do think when the lineup is healthy, I think for the direction they want to go in, Gruden sounds like the guy. We will see. We will completely see. Again, it's an assistant coach, so it's not like he's going to revitalize the whole system. But good to get a new voice on the bench. They got one last year in Chris Kelly. They've had Joe Sacco now forever. I know Joe Sacco has nothing to do with the defense, but like Joe Sacco's been there since I think 2014.
Quite a while.
Quite a while. And you have goalie Bob, obviously. So quite the assistant coaching crew. Gruden, an interesting hire. Should be interesting to see what he does. But Conor, what can people look forward to from you over at Boston Sports Journal?
Yeah, Evan, we're going to continue to break down the offseason as we await some actual tangible news surrounding Patrice Bergeron and David Krejci. But until that happens, we'll still have you covered every step of the way. I think next week we're going to do a little bit of a dive into prospects, and we usually do a prospect ranking every year during the offseason. So I think we're going to commit to that undertaking next week.
Quite the undertaking.
We'll continue to look at any potential fringe free agents the Bruins could still target, because there's still quite a few guys out there who are probably going to be signing for pretty cheap in the next couple of weeks. So we'll have all of our bases covered here over at Boston Sports Journal. So please subscribe over at BSJ. Want to follow me on Twitter? You can do that at ConorRyan_93.
Go do all that. Make sure to subscribe to us over at Bruins Rinkside on YouTube. That is Poke the Bear. That's Conor Ryan. I'm Evan Marinofsky. Poke the Bear listeners. Have a great rest of your week.